Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Rick David. Matty B, I believe, started two-a-day football practices, his first as a head coach, so he might be calling in. I'm not sure if he'll be able to get on in time, but we want to wish him luck in that endeavor. I know he's going to be able to put together a good team because he knows his stuff. So that's where he is right now. But if we get him video people, that might mess up the thing a little bit. But we'll try to get him added on if he calls in and gives us an update of his practice. I'll kick it off with high tempo. Just want to give my thoughts and prayers out for Coach Beeline. Got a scheduled double heart bypass. Michigan Wolverines basketball coach has led them to 2 Final Fours and national championship game appearances. So hoping for a speedy recovery for him. And it seemed like everything went well. So I'll give him a shout out. Rick, what do you got for high tempo this week?
Have you seen the mugshot yet from Goldberg from Mighty Ducks? I wanted to bring that up to you. Have you seen it yet?
No, I have not.
Oh my gosh! Anybody who's listening to this, type it in to your Google search. He looks terrible. He's 39 years old. They caught him with drugs, trying to beat up his girlfriend and everything. He looks awful. So if you're a Mighty Ducks fan, please type that in. If you haven't seen already, absolutely looks awful. So it'll ruin your childhood right there. So, and I will say this, the Pirates are falling apart here. So that's what I would say. Pirates are falling apart. Brown's injured. Bell nowhere to be found. I mean, and also this goes into my real topic is, if you're an NFL star, you're currently maybe holding out. Bell, Aaron Donald, Mack from the Raiders. I mean, all of them are holding out. I mean, they want more money, they want more fame. But again, if you sign a franchise tag, you're going to be making big bucks. You're going to be making over $10 million. And I think that's a problem to them. And I know Raiders are trying to trade Mack right now. They're trying to do like a silent trade of him. So I'm very interested to see what happens to him. So, because maybe with the new sheriff in town, John Gruden, he goes. So we'll wait and see on that. So, but really, that's your NFL news. I mean, right now that's taking over is top guys are not in camp and not going to be playing. So,
well,
pointless preseason games.
You distracted me there with that Goldberg thing. So yeah. I looked that up because I was thinking, who even is Goldberg? I don't remember him.
The goalie from Mighty Ducks.
He's a chubby goalie with like the curly black hair or whatever, and that might not be the best description. But his mugshot looks like he had to go through cancer treatments and lost like 100 pounds. So he's like extremely underweight, and his face looks like that of a 70-year-old man. So that mugshot does not disappoint. And I'll find it and I'll put it out on the Southbound Sports Twitter because I'm going to leave it up so I have a reminder. But
and here's another thing. He's been caught with crystal meth. So if any young kids are out there watching, don't do drugs. And if you do, you're going to look like Goldberg from the Mighty Ducks and be made fun of, and be like, really, what happened to this guy? That's exactly what.
Why would you do meth? Like, that's the one that is guaranteed to mess you up because it wasn't created. Like, it's not natural. So
no.
I would have guessed, like, if you would have told me he's on drugs, guess which one? That would have been my pick based on that mugshot. He looks awful.
You remember how he used to have, like, a chubby face, too, when he was there?
Yeah.
When he was in the Mighty Ducks. Now you see it's, like, super skinny. It's, like, sunken in almost. Just looks awful.
It's disgusting.
He looked better when he was a chubby kid. I hate saying it, but a chubby. Well, he was also in the movie Heavyweights too. If you ever seen that, where the camp they had.
I love that movie with Ben Stiller. Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah,
I don't remember him. I remember the Ben Stiller part. But yeah, I don't know. This is going to be our most TMZ like show. We're starting off with Goldberg mugshots from Mighty Ducks. And getting into some of the stuff that we talked about last week. We're going to save for the end because I don't want to make this show top heavy. Let's get into the Steel City update. Rick already talked about, or he mentioned the Pirates. 4 of 6 in their last 10. And they're going they're going to make the statement that we alluded to last week or 2 weeks ago, where before they made the trades, they said, if we make these trades and it goes downhill, we're holding our hands up. You can't hold us accountable. And that's the type of leadership that is setting your team up to lose. So no matter what happened, it always felt like this was going to be a locker room thing to divide the locker room. Things were going in good. Why not have leadership come in and say, hey, we made the moves because we're going to make the playoffs, or some other positive statement, because that would help the team rally around it. You had all the players saying, hey, we're going to rally around and make the playoffs. And then leadership kind of came out and said, yeah, we're feeling like we're going to collapse again. Remember 2011, that collapsed. Remember 2012, that collapsed. And they pointed out all these collapses, which just lets that black cloud just follow you around. And that's exactly what's happening. Luckily, their schedule's pretty weak. But if the leadership's giving you that kind of feeling, I can't help shake it. Rick, you have anything to add?
I mean, I would be a little bit afraid of their schedule because they have so many games left against the Cardinals and the Cubs, the two teams they've had trouble with this year. So, I mean, that's going to be problem number one, I see. Problem number two is the fact that I don't know what the heck they're thinking, too, in some of these transactions after Archer. You get Hetchavarian, which has a good glove, not a good bat. Okay, that's good. But, okay, you play Sean Rodriguez on the DL, which is a positive because his bat's been questionable at different times this whole entire year. So that makes sense. Now, the other one that doesn't make sense is you claim Buddy Boshers off of waivers today. Buddy Boshers 2 years ago, I got his autograph. He was playing independent baseball in the Atlantic League, and now he's on your 40-man roster, and you designate for assignment your AAA outfielder, Chris Bostic. Why would you do that? You're all-star in AAA. You just designate for assignment because I guess it's more important to keep Sean Rodriguez on your team who's not hitting, or other worthless arms that I don't understand. They're still there. But we're going to make sure that our AAA all-star outfielder is gone now. So don't understand that one. I think it's very questionable, and I don't get it. I'm going to try. I mean, I just don't get it. Why don't you place Michael Feliz on the DL, who's been giving up bombs all season? I mean, that one makes more sense. I mean, I just don't get it. And I'm still curious who the third guy is in the Archer trade. I mean, I'm hearing it could be Will Craig, who's leading Double-A baseball in the Eastern League in RBIs. I'm hearing it could be Cole Tucker, a former first-round pick. I'm hearing it could be another first-round pick in Key Brian Hayes, who won a Gold Glove. I mean, I'm also hearing it could be Luis Escobar, who is probably your second-best pitching prospect, or Nick Birdie, who at one time was a top 10 guy in Minnesota who you claimed off of waivers. So I don't get what they're doing or what they're thinking. I mean, I get what they're thinking. The other thing that I don't think a lot of people are thinking about is yes, Pirates are saying, the management saying, we're all in, we're going for the championship. You know, we're if we make the playoffs, we can make a run. They also aren't saying that the TV contract's up again at the end of this year. So they have to try to get people to tune in here at the end of the year and hope for meaningful baseball because they need to sell this TV contract to make more money. It's kind of like what the Yankees did a couple years ago. They were trying to put together a good team so they could run up that TV cost, which they did. But now it's like the same exact thing here. So I'll be interested to see what they do down the rest of the way. Apparently, we're probably just going to trade or claim some guy off of waivers from Tampa Bay because it seems like they are having the fire sale of fire sales this year. I think they may be placing hitting coaches next on waivers at the rate they're going because I don't know what else they have left to give up. It just seems like if you're a player and you have money next to your name, we're dumping you quickly. I mean, I just don't get their thinking right now.
They're going to get rid of everybody, and they're going to go the Houston route. And what's going to be frustrating is watching them play in a World Series in like 5 years, knowing that the Pirates gave away their top prospects. Because I have a feeling that's what's going to happen. And they're going to get basically a couple years of Chris Archer, which we had already stated he's not having the best year out of it. I just don't. It's too depressing. So we're going to go ahead and pivot off that and get into some NFL talk. But first, for the Pittsburgh Penguins, it's Sid Crosby's birthday today. So wish him a happy birthday. Pretty quiet out of the Penguins camp. So don't really have anything else on that. But let's get into Steelers versus Eagles. So right now, here are the facts in that game. Ben Roethlisberger, he's not going to play. We already know Le'Veon Bell, he's still sitting out. So he's out. And Antonio Brown, he got hurt, which the first text I get on that is, hey, Brown's out, he has an STD. So I'm like, what? So I have to hurry up. I bring it up, I start searching, like, what's going on? And it says undisclosed injury, and I'm thinking, that cannot be right. How would they know that that's what ailed him? But it turned out it was a calf issue, so all glad in that thing. But it would have been the weirdest start to the season if that was the case. And that goes to show you don't trust everything you get. Sometimes sources don't know. And if you report without doing your due diligence, you're bound to get caught up sometime. But he's out, and Steelers are about to play versus the Eagles, and this isn't going to tell us much. Mason Rudolph, he hasn't said how much he's going to play. He's the player I most want to watch. So I'm excited to watch this. I hope he gets meaningful reps. I want to say Dobbs was kind of limited in play calling and scope last year, and it took a few weeks for him to get the playbook down where he was able to make meaningful reps in the preseason. So I think that's what we're going to be looking at here. For the Eagles, I want to see how they handle their quarterback situation, because don't they still have both? And of course, I don't keep up with the Eagles because they're enemy territory over there on that side of the state. But do they both have Wentz and Foles still? So
no, Foles is gone.
Foles is gone?
Yeah, Foles is gone.
Well, Wentz is coming back from injury then. So
Wentz isn't playing either.
Well, of course he's not going to play. But we don't know how that injury is going to affect him going forward, because he's not the Super Bowl winner. So this game's going to be meaningless. I am excited to finally watch a meaningful Steelers game, though, instead of just some of these training camp things, even if it's just backup guys, because the way I look at it, there are 40 other dudes on this team that this could be their last game ever. So you're going to get some people playing some hard football. Of course, it's not going to be the top guys, top talent, but you're going to see some guys putting their all out there. And it's fun to watch whenever there's nothing else on until we get some football. So, Rick, what are your thoughts on Steelers-Eagles?
I'm really hoping for the Oklahoma State connection. I really want to see Rudolph, and I want to see Washington. And I think the other guy I want to see is Samuels. I think I want to see the rookies, see what they got. And especially with Bell, you need a running back. I mean, and he always, remember last year he sat out and then he was rusty like the first two games. I mean, so maybe this is a time where Samuels can prove himself, because he's the type of guy. I mean, he reminds me a little bit of Willie Parker. Coming out of Willie Parker was North Carolina, but Samuels is North Carolina State. Didn't have the hype to him, didn't have all the marqueeness, but this kid's got talent. So I want to really watch him, and I want to see how Washington does, because I think he could be good. He doesn't have to be the top star here, and he's not going to be. He could be the 3 guy, he could be the 4 guy for you and still have a good season. So that's my main things. I know they're going to be doing a bunch of weird stuff. I was listening to a Mike Hilton interview that they had, 6 cornerbacks on the field at one time. They have a play where they could play 6, like cornerbacks, getting rid of the safeties, getting rid of even linebackers, that they could play cornerbacks out of stuff like positions. It's real. I think it's going to be a little bit different, but it makes sense because they got burned by the Gronk and the other guys. Maybe having more cornerbacks is better than having linebackers in a way. So, and maybe it's, and also thinking too, if they have a defensive line, that isn't all banged up and everything, see how they do too.
Well, that was my theory back when they did the draft, and they got a couple safeties. They're going to play 6 DBs, kind of like a quarter look, maybe some dime, where you have the guys in, you always hear the nickel. But whenever you get in those, and you usually don't see defenses like that unless you're late in the game and you're playing prevent. But they were getting torched almost like they were playing prevent. So this will give them another way to get speed on the field. Will we see that here? I doubt it, because normally new looks like that you want to throw in whenever you face a new quarterback, a young guy you might see during the week. Let's say Ravens roll out Lamar Jackson or something. That's where you would throw that out. So I don't know. I'm excited to see what the talent looks like. I'm high on Samuels just because I've watched him play down here at NC State, and they had higher touted running backs on the roster, and they made him play different positions because they wanted to get him on the field. And in college, that's usually a good sign. Whenever you're that big of a playmaker. Now, I got torn apart last year when James Conner went out. You could see in the preseason that he didn't have that NFL burst of speed. And that's what's going to be key watching Samuels here in the preseason. Does he have that? Because unless things change for Conner, I know he was messing with his weight. He didn't have the top end speed that you need to be a breakaway running back. Can he get you 3 or 4 yards a pop? Possibly. Will that wear down his career? 100% yes. Because once you start taking shots like that, you're not going to have a long career. So, hoping that the Steelers do have someone that fits that Willie Parker mold where they do have the breakaway speed and can stretch the defense. But time will tell. We got to see him against guys because it's a lot different jumping from the ACC to the NFL like we saw with Conner. Looked great in college. Once you get up there where everyone's fast, it's a whole different ball game. But let's pivot into just general preseason discussion here. I'll kick it off. Hall of Fame game. I don't know what to think of that presentation. I was hungry for football, so I turned it on, and it was what, the Ravens and oh crap, who was the other team? Who'd they play on Thursday? I was mainly focused on the Ravens because I was shocked that they had RG3. I didn't know that they were going to have him and Lamar Jackson, which is the total opposite of Joe Flacco. And considering they're probably the Steelers' chief rival right now, that is kind of scary for me because the Steelers already had issues playing for their defense against the Jaguars with the semi-mobile quarterback in Blake Bortles being able to move outside the pocket and then check down to a second or third option. If you can buy time, check down, and make a completion, you're able to tear the Steelers apart. We do not need guys like RG3 and Lamar Jackson getting the Ravens into an offense that they can do that, because that's going to cause trouble, and I think that's why you might be seeing the Steelers try out six defensive backs, because we know they don't have the linebacker depth, and they sure as hell don't have fast enough linebackers to cover. So that was the one thing I watched their game, and the Ravens that's what stuck out to me, because RG3 looked pretty good. I know it's only preseason, but he looked pretty solid in his debut. And at this point, is Flacco worth it to roll out there? If you think Lamar Jackson is your future, it's going to be a lot easier to build an offense around RG3. And then whenever he gets hurt, because he's bound to get hurt, you just put in Lamar Jackson and let him take over, if you think he's the future. I did see an interesting stat with that. John Harbaugh, he's 40-40 his last 5 years with only one playoff appearance. So something has to change, because they lost, when they lost their big defense that won them the Super Bowl, it's been downhill since, and they've had a talent problem and consistency there, which I don't care. As a Steelers fan, who cares about the Ravens? But that's going to be the big matchup, because you see the Browns, on the other hand, they're talking about in talks with Odell Beckham now. It's crazy that they're just trying to bring in all this talent.
Dez Bryant, you mean?
No, Odell Beckham, Rick.
Really? I heard the Dez Bryant conversation.
Dez Bryant, I think we mentioned that last week. And today, they were seeing what it would take with the Giants to get a trade done, because the Browns have a former teammate of his. Is it Landry? I don't know.
Landry Jones is there as a wide receiver. Huh.
Yeah, so they're trying to get Jarvis Landry maybe. So they're trying to get talks going. And right now the Giants are only valuing him at $8 million, I saw. But he's looking to get Sammy Watkins money, which I think is $16 million. So they're kind of in a situation where the Steelers are with Bell. You see what Gurley gets, and you think you're better than him. You think you get more than that. Test the open market. Are the Browns willing to pay for him? I know what helps the Browns right now is they have a lot of young, cheap talent. But what will eventually happen is that cheap talent will want to get paid. And who are you going to pay? Myles Garrett? Your quarterback? If it works out? But, I mean, who do you invest in? If you start to bring in these wide receivers that want top-tier money, it's going to cause issues. So, I understand trying to build up weapons for an offense that really hasn't had them over the past decade.
Offensive weapons. I'm hopping in.
All right. Talking Browns, dude, did you see that they want to bring in Odell Beckham?
Do they?
That's the rumors today. They're Jarvis Landry's trying to get him on board. Trying to get them to make a deal. Let's see
that would be a cluster.
It would be a mess, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And will they... I don't know what you do. You have a lot of young talent, and what's going to happen is you're going to groom them and basically become the league's minor league system then. Because you're not going to be able to pay everybody.
Well, I thought they had a good thing going. I'm wondering what happened that they traded Corey Coleman to Buffalo. Because I saw that he went to the Bills, and I mean, he had some injury issues, but that shouldn't have taken away from. It just kind of boggled my mind. Well, they're having a nice stable of receivers that you would think that they would be able to go forward with it, but it's Cleveland doing Cleveland things.
Well, yeah,
and you got to think too. Josh Gordon still hasn't shown up yet, so they trade away Coleman, and Josh Gordon hasn't showed up.
Well, Josh Gordon will be dead weight.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't.
You can fill his spot by picking up Des Bryant.
Yeah, you might as well pick up Des Bryant. At least if you're gonna get, if you're thinking Des Bryant versus Beckham you got to trade for. Des Bryant, you just sign him off the street right now. I mean, and he's there. But I also read Des Bryant doesn't want to go to Cleveland and play for Cleveland. Well, it's going to be the first week of preseason, and you're going to be sitting at home watching it on TV, buddy.
He'll be playing. If they, let's say they traded for Beckham and then they signed Des Bryant, what kind of receiving core would that be? And Josh Gordon comes back? I don't know if they have room to make all these moves. But that would be a scary wide receiver lineup.
Agreed, and that's why the Steelers need to go to 6 quarterbacks in a way. Catch up with all of them running all over the place, man.
Well, Rick, when you don't draft cornerbacks, you only draft safeties. It's just going to be a bunch of other guys getting torched. That's what it's going to look like. I can predict that Steelers defense. So, I don't know. Matt, did you see anything on preseason you want to hit on?
It's a little bit early to tell. I think that some people are going to make a bigger deal out of Lamar Jackson and his interceptions early on. But I don't think it hurts him. I don't think that it makes him a bust. But it's just getting out, seeing the difference from the high school or from the college defenses to the pros, where that speed's a little bit faster, and it's just going to be how do these guys get up to speed with that?
Oh, that was my point exactly. If they wanted to go bold and get him caught up, just start RG3. Who cares about Flacco? And then when RG3 gets hurt, Lamar Jackson will be ready to go.
But I don't. If you're Baltimore, I don't know why you would go away from Flacco. Flacco's done enough that I think he's your clear-cut starter unless he's injured.
Well, you go ahead and you build for sort of that spread offense that can really work here in the NFL. It's going to shift to that. And if you have two, they both won the Heisman, right? You have two spread Heisman winners. That's pretty much just showing, hey, NFL, we're going to go ahead and commit to this, go ahead and stop us. We already saw what happens if any quarterback survives and gets to the second or third reads like Blake Bortles did in the playoffs. You're going to tear the Steelers' defense apart. And are the Ravens building that way? I mean, possibly. I mean, we all know that's the way to beat New England. I mean, you saw it with Eli. You just have a decent run game, which you can in the spread, and then just make accurate throws and hang around. That's how you beat them. I mean, Eagles basically had that formula last year. They had their spread reads and hung around and were able to take care of business.
I thought with RG3, the one thing that I did see from him was that he managed the game much better. And granted, with the system that they have in Baltimore, maybe that benefited him from getting out of the Cleveland and Washington dumpster fires. But he's the kind of, with the way that he played, I feel like he could almost contribute in a way that Charlie Batch did for Pittsburgh for a long time. Where you come off the bench, you provide a skill set that's a little bit different. You're not going to win games, but you're not going to lose them. You can rely on the defense. I think that's a role that's perfect for him.
Yeah, and he's very valuable whenever you're looking at that from that perspective, because he can relate to everything that Lamar Jackson has been through. You won the Heisman. Awesome. You're on top of the world. Come from a smaller school. Awesome. So did I. And you're just going to go through and check all these boxes, and he can say, like, look, this is why it hasn't worked out for me. I'm fighting to be here. Are you going to fight this hard? It doesn't hurt. He's still relatively young. So I don't even know if I would throw him in that Batch position yet, because Batch was past his prime. He had his chance with the Lions where he was a legitimate first-team starter, and by the time he went to the Steelers, it was already kind of past that. He was ready to pass the torch. Where I think RG3, you could really do a transition type thing, and if he stays healthy, who knows? That could be a scary team I wouldn't want to play.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, because you look at the other teams in the division. Bengals are getting worse, and the Browns are the Browns. I mean, it's still the Ravens you got to think about. So even though they're not as good as they were with Ray Lewis and Suggs in their prime and the other guys I'm blanking on, Ed Reed, there's another guy. I mean, those guys are gone to a certain extent. Suggs is not the same a player as he was years ago. I mean, they're still a good team, but they just haven't done well in the playoffs because you have to either play the Steelers, Patriots, or that team that has Peyton Manning on it that year, to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they've been close too, even when they're not. But when you don't make the playoffs, they only made it once the last 5 years, I think, was a stat that I read. So that's what you're looking at. And for the Browns, they're trying what the Marlins do, bring in all young athletes and see if you can get a championship out of it. Who knows? If they would go to some spread type thing and really shake the league up. If you remember when they had the Wildcat offense that the Dolphins brought in, I mean, that was pretty successful for them. So, I don't know. It's still early, and there's too much other silly stuff going on. But the one thing that stuck out to me, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on this, were the new rules. The catch rule is even more of a mess than what it was last year. There was one where the ball clearly was on the ground, and the guy just had his hand on it, and they were like, yeah, that's a catch. It was in his hand. But his hand was on top of the ball. It's kind of like the kind of play that I would argue against you, Matt, backyard football. Like, yeah, I caught that. Then you see my hand was on it that whole time, and then you don't have a camera, but now you have a camera, and you can kind of see. I saw that, and I'm like, yeah, that's not a catch. I mean, just go with your gut. And the guy in the booth was like, yeah, his hand was touching that ball, so that's definitely going to be a catch. And I was thinking, hey, the ball's on the ground. Like, he caught it. I forget even who the receiver was because it's preseason. But I thought, my God, that's going to leave a sour taste in my mouth. If you're watching as a fan and you can't predict, last year it was worse the other way. Hey, that was a catch. Jesse James ring a bell? And then you're like, no, that was incomplete. And then this year it's like, Yeah, if that was in the backyard, that would clearly be incomplete. Just go with that. Get some rec league champion or intramural champion from some big school to come in and call catches it or not. Because they're going to be honest with you. You don't need a guy that's been reffing for 38 years to tell me if that's a catch. The other one was the helmet thing. Because did you guys see on Twitter, there were a couple slow-mos where they were talking about possibly ejecting guys, and they were clear shoulder tackles. So it's going to get worse the whole year. It's like they're trying to kill the sport. So Matt, I really want to get your thoughts on this as a coach. What do you do?
Well, this is I think you got to take this into consideration with the preseason and with the referees trying to figure out how to interpret the new rule changes. What you're going to see is almost an overflooding. They're going to err on the side of calling it. And then whenever they go to their whatever referee meetings are, they're going to be able to process, with what the league wants or the way that they want it called in the game. So I don't think that you necessarily have to hit the panic button yet, but I do think because they made the changes, they're going to test those rules out during preseason when there's no money on the line, when no one is really caring about preseason. They're going to overcall those penalties so the teams kind of have an idea of what those rules are going to be, so that then they can kind of make adjustments. And I think you'll see when the regular season hits, I think there's going to be less of those kinds of penalties called. But throughout preseason, it's going to look sloppy. Also because you have guys that are trying to make teams. So they're going to be more aggressive trying to earn one of those 53-man spots.
That's what rubs me the wrong way. If I have a safety that's trying to make a roster spot and they give some bogus call for targeting when the ref's still filling out the rule, and then that guy's suspended or whatever happens, and then he gets cut, like you just basically took a guy's livelihood away because the ref couldn't call the play right. I mean, you have replay. You can't get it wrong. You can't get it wrong. If he hits with the shoulder first, it's not a penalty. Like you're taught to put your head at the ball, and for how many years you're not going to be able to break that right away. It's the leading with the head into the body that I had the issue with, like the Ryan Shazier. That was a clear tackle that was going to get you hurt no matter what. If you're making the shoulder hit, I mean, you can easily tell that the guy's leading with his shoulder just watching the video. So just call it. Like, I don't understand. Do they need guys that have these refs played football? Because that's where I lean to too. Because I know they're really rigorous with their refs and who they're getting as officials on these games. Maybe they haven't played. I mean, there's a good bit of coaches that haven't played, and maybe you just don't know what you're looking for. I don't know. I feel like if you watched a ton of game tape and you played, you would know a sound tackle versus one where a guy could get hurt either way. So, Rick, you have any thoughts on that stuff?
And the other thing is you only have part-time referees. I know I say this often, but if you have part-time referees, I mean, like, we used to make fun. I can't remember his name now. The guy from Arizona who was a lawyer, all he cared about were muscles, and he wore his little brother's
Ed Hockley?
shirt.
That's a guy.
Ed Hockley, yeah. He was a lawyer. He's a lawyer in Arizona. I mean,
didn't know
they
that,
all
Rick.
had, like, and I mean, he has another job that he's getting his real money. This is side money here. So, I mean, how much time do you have to focus on these rules, too? Because they make the changes, like, middle of summer. Now they're putting them in. Plus, you're working your normal job, and then I have to go to all these meetings. And, like, it's learning on the fly too much. I mean, and if you want the perfect call, you're not going to get it because these guys aren't practicing as much because there's really no, there used to be a lot more where teams would go to practice against each other, the close teams. Like, I know the Steelers back in the day used to go to Washington once in a while. Washington would come up here and practice, and then the referees would show up. That really doesn't happen as much anymore. A couple teams do it, but not many anymore. So, I mean, you really don't have it. So, I mean, they can't practice, and then they're just going out and having fun, at it. So, it's not like where baseball, when they change something, they have all spring training. So, the referee crew has 30 games to get it right in the mind, during spring training. These guys have 4 games, if that, and to get it right, and go to to go, get it right for regular season. There's more time in prep, like in a baseball, than compared to a football season.
Luckily, I had one of the fans fill in that the Ravens played the Bears because that was going to drive me nuts. So thanks for that in the old comment section. But I agree with you, Rick. It's too tough. You got to get full-time refs. I think that's what you have to do. That's my takeaway from that. Have to get full-time refs and pay them a decent salary. Pay them the league minimum. Whatever that is, a couple $100K. Pay them what you would pay a punter. And then I think you'll get the performance. Like paying these weird salaries, like you saw what the stuff that went through with the Carolina Panthers sale, where they were saying like they weren't paying the staff right and all this other weird stuff that comes out. I mean, it's every franchise. Pay them a living wage that every NFL player makes. I know that doesn't make sense for like every position, like staff and stuff, but refs 100% should be it. If they're on the field, they should get it. And you could argue cheerleaders in the same way. When the revenue's in the billions, you can't say anything against it. If you're on the field, I think you should be paid the league minimum. And that's just me. I mean, they have it for players, they have it for coaches. If you're on the field, refs, cheerleaders, whoever's down there, and the fans are looking at you, if you're in a spot where they can see you, I think you should make the league minimum. I don't know what if you're raking in that many billions of dollars in revenue, you really can't have a money argument against that, because I will only be a chink in that little armor. But anything else you guys want to hit on for the NFL before we save the college football mailbag to the end, Matt?
Okay.
So anything else you guys want to hit on before we get into the mailbag question?
Nothing I can think of.
I think we're good for now.
All right, I was definitely beating around the bush on this one because last week I came in hot on the show, hit on a couple big topics. Some people gave me some feedback that it was a little too political or whatever. Number one, we were trying to go for the LeBron thing. I had some people message about that. We went on both sides. Matt brought it in from a positive for LeBron. I was a little bit more cynical, and some new facts came out that the Toledo public school system is paying for at least 75% of the school. And by whatever year, whenever it's fully funded, when they finally have a full cycle of students, it's going to be almost $8 million. So take it for what it's worth. If you want to hear the original argument, I'm not going to get back into it. Listen to last week's episode and then read the facts that came out on it. Same with like the advertising thing in the NFL. Now that games are being played, the slow period's over. But the other big one that I went on, our mailbag question is, will Ohio State fire Urban Meyer? And when I brought in that one, I was just more talking about them even bringing it up in the interview. And this is kind of blown up. So as soon as the show was over last Tuesday, Brett McMurphy, I'll just give some background on this because I went off on it last week and I want to give some additional background information. So ESPN lays off college football reporter Brett McMurphy. I think he's an Oklahoma State grad. He mainly covered the Big 12. But I read every conference stuff just because I like football enough. So I'm aware of Brett McMurphy. Didn't even realize that he had gotten fired from ESPN. So he has a thing in his contract where he has to be non-compete. I read that he offered ESPN to work for free. Well, not really free. So they're paying him his buyout. And it's up like in a month or two. So he definitely timed this perfectly. He asked ESPN. He said he had a story. And he wanted to know if they wanted to break it. ESPN says no. So he gets a lawyer, and they tell him that he can't post it anywhere except for social media. So that's why this breaks on Facebook. So if you want to know how I had all the details, seemingly before it hit the news on Thursday, that's why, because I had followed Brett McMurphy casually. I don't even know if it was through the Southbound Sports account, because we've interacted with a couple of the guys, the major writers, before on social media. So I'm well aware of what's going on. That's how you can stay up to date. Guys, if you're listening to the show, you don't have to follow ESPN. You don't have to follow NBC Sports. Follow the actual writers and the reporters, and then you'll get the news faster. Because McMurphy released his next update like Thursday morning. ESPN didn't cover that story until like 5 p.m. So if you're an avid ESPN reader, you wouldn't even have known that he broke it. So what he does is he interviewed Zach Smith's ex-wife, who was the victim in the domestic violence situation. Had pictures, had text messages. Then he went to the Big Ten Media Days, asked Urban Meyer the question. Urban Meyer played him off. Whatever he said, I forget what I paraphrased it last week, but it was something like, who comes up with a story like that? To the reporter that had the proof, Urban Meyer blew him off, said, no, I had no idea about it. Who comes up with a story like that? Basically calling out Brett McMurphy. Well, Thursday, Brett McMurphy released texts saying that Urban Meyer's wife knew about the incident. It blows up. Everywhere has it then. Because he has the proof. He has the text messages. And Urban Meyer's on leave. So that's pretty much the recap. Ohio State puts Urban Meyer on leave because they see that there might be some proof to this story. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. Do you think he'll be fired? They said they have 14 days to wrap it up. There was a rally for him. When was that? Over the weekend? Yesterday? 2 days ago? There was a rally from some fans to keep him, which I guess I'll link to that. But I don't know. Because Urban Meyer's not the victim here, which is crazy. It's almost like the Penn State thing all over again. And Ohio State fans are denying it. But it's very similar from an outsider perspective. So I'll start with you, Rick. What do you think?
I can see it going either way. I really can. They have the proof that says, yes, he knew. But does Ohio State want to do that? That's the main question. Does Ohio State want to get rid of him? So close to the season. Do they have so much proof? Is the evidence overwhelming? Are they going to get more evidence that hasn't broke yet? That somebody else, some other reporter or somebody else could get a hold of and release. So I could see it going either way. I don't know what will happen, but I really could see it going either way. I just thought it was funny that one of the Ohio State fans at the rally had ESPN fake news, and yet they were like the last ones to get to the pond. You know, it's like everybody's already fishing at the pond, and this guy's still in the parking lot getting his fishing rod out of the back of the truck, you know? And that's what ESPN reminded me of on this story.
Well, that's what's crazy to me. When I talked about it, there was just some buzz about it in college football circles. So it wasn't even picked up. So just think of all those guys that think that ESPN broke that story. That just shows how many ill-informed people there are out there, that they might not know all the facts, depending on... So what... ESPN, I think they interviewed Zach Smith, the old assistant coach, and I sent you that video. He looked pretty bad in that video. I don't know. Well, originally his lawyer said that he was only going to testify at court. I think they had a court date for that day. And because of this new evidence, it got pushed back to September. So I texted you guys and I said, this is going to be bigger than what it looks like, because that court date that was going to be the discovery for what they use to take Urban Meyer off of suspension got pushed into September, and there's no way they're going to let this media circus run into September. They just can't do that. So I don't know, Matt. What are your thoughts on this? I'd like to get your thoughts.
To me, the big issue that I have is that if Urban Meyer doesn't shoot his mouth off and act holier than thou, there's a really good chance that I think that he could possibly have walked away from it. Are you hearing me okay, or am I breaking up?
There was some sounds, but you're okay right now. Okay.
To me, the issue that I have is the way that he came out so strongly against those basketball allegations, and he made the threats of, well, if you're being investigated and you lie, you should never be allowed to coach again. You know, he shot his mouth off when there were the basketball fraud issues. And here it is. He was asked about it. He lied. He said he didn't know when there was something that he might have known or someone in his family knew. You know, if he's a man of his word, then he should walk away. You know, this is the same guy, mind you, that when Jameis Winston had his crab legs incident, goes on Bill O'Reilly and says, if he was a player on my team, I'd kick him off. But then his own player gets a DUI and barely sits out a quarter. I mean, it is what it is, but don't sit here and act holier than thou and then, or to judge other people and then think that same standard isn't going to be applied to you. I think that depending on how the negotiations go, if they're able to find a settlement, I can see Meyer walking away and potentially ending up being the coach of the Cleveland Browns when they fire Hugh Jackson.
You think he'd have to jump to the NFL?
If Ohio State cans him and he's shooting his mouth off, he ran Florida into the dirt. Ohio State now, who knows what condition their program is going to be in? Because if you're a top recruit, do you really want to go to that situation?
I don't know. Well, I don't think he's going to get fired. That's my take on this. I don't know if I actually said that as I gave the recap. It's amusing how it went down, but the longer he's on suspension, I know a lot of coaches don't come back from that. I think Sports Illustrated did an article where they or maybe it was SB Nation, where they listed every coach that's been under suspension, and it usually doesn't bode well. But for him, you don't get fired for lying to the press. I mean, that's not going to happen. The job lynch mob isn't going to take him away. I think some of the stuff is a little extreme. Having the rally, I don't think they need to do that. I think all they need to do, he said he reported it, kind of making it seem like he threw Gene Smith under the bus, their athletic director. But someone, I think it was Stuart Mandel, he put out that in his contract, they list 2 people that he would have to report it to. If he reported it to him, whether it's an email or what, I don't know what their form is. I know there's public record requests out there for that information right now. So when that comes out, if he reported it, he's in the clear. They can't fire him. There's no way they fire him. Now, will the team suffer consequences? Possibly, but if they tried to force him out, even if he reported it and they fire him, I think they owe him $38 million.
Well, here was something interesting, not to cut you off.
Go ahead.
But I think what makes this bad is that in his own playbook from a couple of years ago, I saw it was circulating. I don't know if it was taken down off of some sites.
Yeah, that was removed pretty quick.
He had one of his Ohio State playbooks posted, and one of the things that they had in it was about treating women with respect. And you can't have that kind of emphasis in there and then have a known wife beater on your staff. It's so hypocritical. And I think that's the kind of thing that it becomes, what is that character? What is your character? Because you have that, your 2008 Florida Gators team that was full of, future prison inmates running wild, and you didn't police the ranks there. It's showing a pattern of negligence that this was going on and he didn't know. I think that maybe some of that evidence in his past of running his mouth comes back to bite him.
I don't know. If you look at it from that perspective, that's like a moral quandary, and I don't know if they can fire him for cause with that. Could they let him go? Yeah. Would he fight that? Based on his release statement that he sent on Friday, it seems like he's gearing up for a fight. And if they fire him without cause, he's most likely going to get hired in the college ranks. If you were LSU, would you not hire him right now?
No, you got the Raging Cajun.
Oh, my God. They would fire him mid-season like they always do, whoever, just to even get a taste of Urban Meyer. I mean, even Notre Dame at that point, would they take a gamble on other coaches that he wants? I mean, he's at one of his dream schools. So going back to his time at Utah, I don't know if a lot of people knew this, but it's kind of common knowledge. When he coached at Utah, he had a clause in his contract that let him out without any buyout if he coached either Ohio State, Michigan, or Notre Dame. He basically put in his contract, those are his 3 dream schools, and he's at Ohio State right now. And those are his top 3. Really, where would he go? If he's forced out, I could see him taking any job. But, I mean, if you have a chance at Notre Dame or staying at Ohio State, most likely he's going to fight for that. That's his top job. And he's like the second best coach in the league right now. if he's fired, Nick Saban has, the only 3 coaches have national championships active, I believe.
Yes.
It would be Nick Saban has most of them, and then Jimbo Fisher has one, and who had the other one? Slipping my mind.
Oh, Clemson.
Oh, Clemson. That was Sweeney, yep. So Clemson had the other one. So not that many. It's all in one spot. And you're joking yourself if you don't think any other college team is going to jump on him. Because this is different than the Jim Tressel thing. He was under an NCAA investigation. This is not an NCAA investigation. I don't think they could give them sanctions or anything for this. This is sort of an Ohio State internal thing.
But if this does go south, if they do find something that then gets Urban Meyer fired, I wouldn't be surprised with the way that people are screaming for these mob lynchings that he doesn't get hired collegiately because of the mob. When you look at like the Schiano thing,
I was going to bring that up.
They didn't name Greg Schiano as the interim head coach at Ohio State.
Well, they didn't name him at Tennessee. Do you remember the Tennessee thing?
That's exactly what I'm getting at.
So, I mean, you're a head coach. How would you feel?
I mean, I wouldn't like it, but if with what the evidence has going back that far, I mean, it's a tough situation. I would like to think that if I knew one of my coaches was doing something like that, that they would either be fired or I'd beat the shit out of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the statement Zach Smith said, that Urban Meyer found out that if he hit her, he's fired. But I just don't know. I can defend Urban Meyer just from the legal standpoint of his contract, where they could fire him with cause only if he didn't report it at this point. So it's going to be black or white, I would think.
Well, I think there was enough of a gray area where even within like the context of the Mick Murphy text, they kind of said, well, Urban Meyer's wife knew. Well, if his wife knew, you would think that they would have had that conversation. So,
I think that's the new McMurphy report from today, was that while this was going on in 2015, Shelley Meyer was out giving conference talks at a domestic violence conference. So I don't know what else he has, if it's little things like this, like little gotchas. But, I mean, if he has an actual report, because he did say one of the police reports were marked as I think this is the most common Ohio State defense, that when McMurphy first reported it, he said the box was checked that Zach Smith was arrested, and then he received the second report where that box wasn't checked. But he hasn't posted that first one with the checked box. So I don't know what to believe, because he edited that Facebook post, the initial one I sent you guys after last week's show. So I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. If the police department doesn't release that, does it kind of poke holes in this whole story? And, I mean, most likely he's coming back. The big date's going to be, what, TCU?
Yes.
So even if they suspend him for, 2 games? But then the suspension doesn't hold up either. Because that's the big leak. If you search Urban Meyer on Twitter, everyone's leaking that he's going to be suspended for 3 to 4 games. That's not true, because this is so cut and dry that it's either yes or no. Yes, he reported it, or no, he didn't. And then that's it. And he's digging his own grave. And would that hold him back from getting another job? I don't think so. But I don't think he's going to have to. I think he'll be back at Ohio State this year, and we'll see if there's any consequences. Get out the negative recruiting, because you know that's already probably started. Rick, you have anything else to add? I feel like we skipped you a bit.
No, that's pretty much the same exact thoughts. I mean, there may be a suspension, there may be not. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, when you look at him, and I think this is what Ohio State's going to do, you're going to look at all of his years there. So all the problems year in and year out. It's just not this one, I think they're going to look at. They're going to look at everything, his resume at Ohio State, all the problems and everything. And I think that's the way you got to look at it. You can't just look at it for one thing. If you're placing him on administrative leave, You got to look at the whole entire thing. Because if you just say, oh, just this one thing, that's all we care about, then you're ignoring everything else. So you're ignoring the past. I mean, and that's not right to him.
Well, they have to have...
It's not right to him, and it's not right to the Ohio State fans either.
It's $38 million, Rick. To be honest, it's a business. They don't care about the fans. It's all about that money. Can they justify firing him or not? And if he has a case, he'll fight that. I mean, look, we always talk about Mike Leach fighting for his $2 million he thinks he's owed by Texas Tech. Like, that's still an ongoing thing. $38 million is a ton of money. I know they could probably say one booster would write a check or whatever, but you don't want that kind of black eye on the department because they have other issues going on too. This isn't the only case right now that's open at Ohio State. They have the wrestling thing going on, and I don't know if they ever settled that diving issue. So, but that's it for Mailbag. I think hopefully that wraps it up. We don't know the extra details until McMurphy either releases them or until these public record things start to come back. Someone did start to get performance reviews released from Zach Smith because his contract was renewed 2 times since the 2015 incident. And there were some highlights for personal issues on things that need improvement. So that could be another telling sign that he did know. But again, that doesn't prove anything. So those will be coming out. I'm sure Ohio State's probably going to hold on to them as long as possible legally until this is figured out. But let's get into the final bell. What do we got to wrap it up? Rick, anything you got this week?
Pirates are winning 10-0 right now against the Rockies. 10-0. So good to see they're actually winning here on this road trip that's going to be here and also in San Francisco. So must-win games to try to get back in this whole entire thing. And I'm getting ready for fantasy drafts. I guess I already paid to be in our league, so let's go. I'll be franchising that Todd Gurley at $25. Thanks, Rich.
Well, you have
Todd Gurley at 25.
Well, let's just be clear. We do an auction draft, so it's a little bit different than just a snake draft. Whenever you pick a guy to keep, the salary that you paid for them whenever you drafted them counts against your budget. So it adds a little bit extra element of strategy. So good luck to you, sir.
Good luck to you, Rich. Good luck to you, Coach Matt.
Matt,
good luck to you too.
What do you got for your final thoughts this week?
My final thoughts, one of the greatest the coaches for Florida State, good old Mickey Andrews, is back. I love seeing him back, helping out, going to be contributing. So I expect our defense to not suck this year because we got the original War Daddy back.
How old is he?
I don't know off the top of my head, but old enough to still be in the game.
I didn't know if you were going to go like a Bobby Bowden type age or if he was going to be younger. That could have went either way. My final wrap up, ACC, the ESPN is starting to roll out their Streaming Plus, and the ACC network is supposed to launch, and this impacts the Pitt Panthers. They're supposed to launch their network by 2019, and if they don't, then the payouts raise per school. So I wonder if that's going to be tied into this ESPN Plus thing. That's been the rumor. Because right now, if you pay for it, you're really only getting 30 for 30s and some other minor sports. But that could be the big coup for ESPN to get content. They just pork their ACC network on this Plus, and you have to pay $5 a month. And to be honest, that wouldn't be too bad if you're a Pitt Panthers fan and you want to watch them, because you wouldn't have to pay for cable television then, because they wouldn't be on regular ESPN. And most likely, Pitt Panthers football games are going to be stashed on there. They won't be getting the primetime slots unless they're up against the Clemsons or Florida States or maybe Miami even.
Penn State.
Well, Penn State, that's interconference.
Conference.
So for the ACC, I guess they're playing at Heinz Field this year. So how the TV deals work, it goes with whoever's at home. So if Pitt is at home this year, it should be an ESPN game for that. ESPN owns both anyway. if it was at Penn State's now split with Fox and ABC. So whoever bid to pick that game. So like last year, it could have been on Fox or whatever. So this will really only affect Pitt basketball and a lot of their other football games. So as a fan, you got to keep an eye on that. That's the last thing. And speaking of other ACC news, UNC, the Tar Heels, got 13 football players pinched for selling their football shoes, which they get as part of their athletics thing. They have a deal with whoever, Jordan now. I think they're Jordan football school.
Yeah.
Michigan was the first Jordan football school, but I'm pretty sure UNC switched over. So you get however many shoes per year. And they had 13 guys, including their starting quarterback, caught selling them. So not a good look. And it's something that, to be honest, the NCAA shouldn't even have a hand in. Because who cares if they're selling stuff that they got for free? It's their stuff. It's not like, maybe they had numbers on them. I don't know what the shoes were. If they were just a standard issue Jordans that they got, or if they were customized UNC ones.
Oh, they were customized.
Yeah, but they could have just been colors, because I've seen the Michigan ones where they also have like the casual ones that the players get, where it's just like the maize and blue, but there's no mention of Michigan on them. Now, some of them do have that because they get a ton of shoes. So you get a ton of them free. Yeah, what's the big deal about letting them go? That's my feelings on it.
It's not so much the players; it's more about Nike wanting to make money, because the school gets those shoes in their deal. So it's not so much the school; it's more Nike is not making the money. That's the thing.
Oh, and they sell out almost immediately.
These people could go buy these people who they were selling to. They figure they could go buy it from like a store, like a Dick's or a Champs that's selling them, not go here where they're not making the money. So Nike doesn't see the money on those shoes. Whereas if these people went to Dick's and bought them, they'd be making the money. That's the thing. It's about Nike getting the money. That's the main item, to my knowledge, when I heard this story. And that's all I kept thinking was Nike wants money.
Yeah, but some of these shoes sell out almost immediately. The special custom ones that the players get for Michigan football that they sell, like they're already on version 13, I think, because they do a limited run. Players get them, and then they get a certain amount that they print or stitch, whatever they do for shoes, and that's it. And once they're out, they're out. Like I wear standard size 12, those sell out immediately, and then you're on to the secondhand market. So they could pretty much help cut it down by limiting. Michigan's been with Jordan for 3 years since Harbaugh's been there, and they're already on 13 different shoes. So, I mean, come on, maybe they're not. Maybe that's something else with the Jordan brand. Maybe it's not actually 13 different ones. They just name them that way. I don't know. But that's it for this week. Thanks for listening. We'll check back in on some of this stuff. Obviously, Steelers, good luck to them. Here we go. Preseason's underway, and we'll be back next week. You can follow us live, Facebook, Tuesday nights at 9. Around there, we've been starting a tad bit late because of football season. But also on Instagram, Southbound Sports, and Twitter at Sbound Sports. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.